Yeah,
I think
thank
we
you.
are all, and just allow me to give you some
Sure.
introduction.
Mm.
Yeah. So this is part of the Introduction to Space Engineering class that we are doing in Panama, and in collaboration with Space Advisory Council and also Open Cosmos, we will have this workshop remotely. So we have guests from Costa Rica, guests from Panama, guests from. In one say, are you in UK or where are you based
No,
right
I
now?
think it's Nigeria.
No,
Oh, myself?
Nigeria.
I'm in Nigeria.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm in Nigeria.
Okay. So Lucille, thank you so much. I know you have this is your second session of the day, and we appreciate your support. So please go ahead, and we are happy to
Well,
have you here.
thank you very much. Well, it's my pleasure as well to give this kind of training session, so no worries. So yeah, my name is Lucille, and I'm gonna do the presentation today. So I'm customer engagement at Open Cosmos, and so during this training, so it's gonna last approximately 1 hour. I'm gonna start by a quick presentation of Open Cosmos, so that just to give a bit of context, so that you can know what our main activities and what we are doing. And then as the second part of this training session, I will just invite you to all go to a software to have kind of an interactive session, so that you will enter our software, which is a space mission design software, and we all see a bit, we'll do some simulation, and I will highlight some key concepts that you can learn from this software. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not speaking Spanish, so this session will be in English. But yeah, if you don't understand,
That's
or
great.
if I'm going too fast, just let me know. I can be slower. So yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Wait for it. I need to find. Okay, sure. Great. Um, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if you can see. So if at some point it just shut down, please let me know, because sometimes this happens. So yeah, I was saying Open Cosmos. So we are a startup based in UK, near Oxford, and really the goal. We have been founding 4 years ago, and the goal is really to make the space accessible to everyone, and by providing simple and affordable space mission based on the CubeSat technology. So we do design, manufacture, and launch CubeSat that go from 3U up to 12U. And the goal is to really provide a full end-to-end solution for our customer and for any kind of application. So just a few words about the team. So actually, when I joined 2 years ago, almost we were 28, and now we are growing. We are almost 70 people. So I don't even know if we can call it a startup. Yeah, we had to grow massively as a team, because we have 8 missions in the pipeline and 2 missions to be launched in August. So yeah, we have to get on board many people to be able to deliver those missions. And we have a lot of technical background, but also non-technical background to support all the operation and the team. And almost 15 nationalities represented here. So we are basically welcoming everyone. Just because we liked doing this small analogy with the computer science sector to just explain our vision and what we are going to achieve. But basically, if you look at this slide, you will see the first picture is actually what a computer would look like 60 years ago. So you will see it will fit a whole room, be very expensive, and only accessible for few people that will have the knowledge. And you see that everything changed actually when some people in United States decided to make those computers smaller and affordable. And then you see what happened, like with the new application. This opened up a new area of application with Google, Facebook, Amazon, and so on. So the goal is really to replicate the same thing for the space industry. Because you would have seen, like, when we think about space, we think of big satellite, very expensive, and only for governments. So we want to break this, and really by providing simple and more affordable space mission, so that you're making it accessible for many more people, and you open the possibility of new application that can actually help our everyday life. using actually satellite applications.
Lucy, sorry,
yes.
this is Angel. Could you disclose the missions that you are working on right now, or this is like a secret?
No, I can't. So some of them maybe number. I can tell you that we are launching 2 missions in August, and this is for IoT application, so Internet of Things application, mainly for maritime surveillance and also the tracking of worldwide life. So one of our customers is actually Lacuna Space, and it's a startup that was part of the ESA BIC. We have a lot of incubation center here in Howell, in Europe, within the ESA, and we were both startup incubated to the European Space Agency. And then we are working on a 12U mission for Earth observation application. So we will actually test an Earth observation payload, which is from Satlantis. I don't know if you heard about them. So they're actually developing the payload, and then we are providing the 12U platform to fly their payload. And this is a project called Mantis, being supported by the European Space Agency as well.
Thank you so much.
And then we have it's mainly for communication or Earth observation mission. But yeah, for the other, I'm not allowed to disclose yet the customer. So yeah, basically we are really designing, providing a simple platform to really open up the space to many more people. So really, we are helping payload provider to really develop their instruments. And we have also some applications that come from research and biological sector. So we need to show that it's not only for specific application, but now space can be also used for medicine and biological sector. Yeah, so I was mentioning we're designing from 3U, so you can see here the different configuration from 3U, 6U, and then 12U configuration. So yeah, the 2 satellites that are going to be launched in August are a 3U configuration. So here, yeah, just a few words about how we proceed, so that it helps to understand what we're actually doing. But basically, on top of this slide, you will see what our customer care about. So either developing the payload, the instrument, or the subsystem, or on the other side, customers that they are fully focused on the data and a commercial service that they want to develop. And in that second case, the payload provider will be our partners. But sometimes I would say a payload provider is only interested to develop his instrument and to send it to space for in-orbit demonstration. Or we are customers that they are only focusing on data. But anyway, for both type of customer, we are actually providing the full infrastructure. So designing, manufacturing the CubeSat, taking care of booking the launch on their behalf, booking the ground station, and then dealing with the operation, so that we can really provide a turnkey solution to them. And you will say, what is then the difference with OpenCosmos is that ahead of this, during the mission preparation phase, we are actually providing them with tools that really help them to develop their mission and their instruments. So we have been developing a bundle of tools to actually support this mission preparation phase. And in this bundle of tools, so this includes a software and a hardware. So the software is called BIOP. So we are actually going through a rebranding exercise, so it's going to call OpenUp. But basically, it's a space mission design software that you're going to actually use in 5 minutes. But you will see there are 2 modules on this software. One is called mission and system design. So it's really based on some parameters that you're going to enter. It gives you in a matter of few seconds the result of a first simulation. So based on the instrument that you have, the areas that you want to target, you will have a first estimation of your mission analysis. And then once this is frozen, there is actually a second module, which is called hardware in the loop, that works together with our BKit. So the BKit is actually, it's not a satellite, but it's actually replicate and resimulate all the same interfaces. So you have the same mechanical, electrical interfaces than in a real satellite. So that if you are developing, let's say, in Panama, you are developing a small camera, then you could integrate your camera in this platform, you will see there is a small electronic box here that will simulate all the subsystems of our satellite. So you can collect your payload through this electronic box, and then you connect the BKit to your computer, and through the app, you can start testing your payload. So you can start really to check if your payload is going to be compatible with the platform, if the interfaces is going to be compatible, and if you can start checking in terms of power, in terms of data, the development of your instruments. So it's a bit.
Sorry, Lucy. So this
Sure.
this BKit hardware, this small box can simulate all of the subsystem of a real satellite, and you only have to add the payload?
Yes, exactly. So you integrate your payload on this mechanical structure, and then you connect with two harnesses your payload to the electronic box. So you have two harnesses. One will be for power, and the other one will be for data. So the electronic box will actually deploy to your payload the same conditions than in the real satellite in terms of power and data.
All right. And what is the business model of this BKit? So do you sell this to universities, or do you just give them like for testing purposes? So how about Latin America? Can you ship one of these?
That's a good question. So, like I would say a year ago, all of this, so BIAP is still for free for university. And actually, we wanted to make BKit available for free. And it turned out, so our model was to send the BKit for free, but we were asking for a deposit because it's some hardware, so it's kind of a cost for the company. Because we're buying the component, we assemble, we integrate, this represents a cost. But we were ready to make it accessible for free for university. And it turned out that university were actually more interested in buying it. So now, yeah, it's available to be purchased by university. And the thing is, so right now, on top of my head, so the cost is around £2,000 for BKit, a 3U version. And the thing for some university was a bit expensive. So we come up with a new product we call BKit Lite version, I would say, where we basically remove the mechanical structure. So you won't have the structure part, but you will still have this small electronic box with the harnesses that can allow you to still connect your payload through the main interfaces. But you just won't have this mechanical parts, which is a bit less expensive.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have another question from Allman. I don't know if you have a microphone, Allman.
Yeah, go ahead. If you have any question, please feel free.
Yeah, he's saying that what kind of data provides the BKit? It's like an emulator of an EPS,
yes,
ADCS, telemetry and
yeah,
control.
it's an emitter of the data, the EPS, not the control though, because we don't have the reaction wheel. Yeah, you won't have this telemetry and control.
All right.
So
It's really about in terms of power and data.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes. Tell me.
Okay, so is it compatible with other modules? For example, if I want to get the BKit Lite and I want to, and you say it doesn't come with the control module, so if I want to integrate maybe like an Arduino kind of module, is it compatible?
Yeah, it should be compatible. Is your question related to communication protocol?
No, so you just mentioned that it doesn't come with the control module.
No, yeah, but I think you control yours, yes.
Yeah, so I'm saying, what if I develop like a small control module and then I want to add it onto the BKit? Do you understand?
Yeah, you
there-
mean as part of the electronic box as an add-on.
Yeah, exactly.
This actually should be possible, yeah.
Okay, so no compatibility problems.
No. Actually, that's the goal. You can use it to test it.
Okay, that's great.
Actually, we are working with a university in France that is developing an attitude and control subsystem, and they are going to use a BeeKit to start testing it through the platform. So yeah, I see there is a question for the communication. So on top of my head, the communication that can be supported is UART, CAN UART. Yeah, I don't remember them on top of my head, but I can provide the list just after the meeting. But I know, yeah, there is UART, CAN for sure, and another one. Yeah, I'm going to provide the list just after to be sure I can provide the full list, because there is 3 or 4 protocols being supported by BeeKit.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So yeah, basically this is really what we call a payload platform development for supporting the development on any kind of instrument like camera, communication subsystem, and so on. Okay, so just before entering the software, we'd like to say actually what is actually driving the development of a space mission, and is actually what you want to do. Like, do you want to provide a specific telecommunication or navigation services, or target Earth observation application, or doing research and exploration? This is really, if you decide to go, for example, for Earth observation mission, this is going to drive really the full development of the mission, like the rest of the development. So I don't know, like if you have specific service for Panama, I guess each country usually have its own target. But I know that Earth observation is quite a big trend. And then taking from there, you have to define what we call your mission requirements. I guess this is something that you are very familiar. But basically, you want to say what is the physical property that you want to measure. So is it, for example, for agriculture? Is it the level of water in the crops? Or this kind of physical properties that you need to know, because then this is going to drive the impact on your instrument, on your payload, and the main technical requirement for it, depending on the resolution that you need for your specific service, and so on. Then the coverage, which area do you want to target? So is it the Latin America region, or another like a region, Nigeria, Cameroon, or France? So you need to know, because then this can have an impact, for example, on when you're choosing the orbit when you want to launch. Then you need to define the duration. So how long you want your mission to last? Do you need it for 3, 5, or 10 years? Then the availability of the data. There is some services like you can just require to have data once a week. And then you will have services where you will need to get data like every hours. So again, this is going to impact the design of your mission. And then for sure, you need to define your mission budget and when you'd like to launch your mission. So yeah, I think we're ready to go and jump on the website. So yeah, our mission, our space mission design software is actually a website, cloud-based software. So you can just click on this link. So maybe I'm going to put it in the chat, and then you can connect from there. So you should have your own credential to connect. But if not, you can use this demo credential. Well, see, it's very big. So you can connect on this link. You click here. And then you can use your own credentials. So if you receive by email your username and your password, otherwise you can use this demo username and password. So you can use Starman and *03 for the passwords. So I'm just gonna put it in the chat. So yeah, just to answer the question in the meantime, the price for the BeeKit Lite so far is around, I will speak in dollars, it's $600, $700. So we wanted to target a product that could field less than 1K as a price.
That's better, I guess.
So yeah, just to connect, so you go on this link, and then let's use Starman and asteroid 03 as a password. So I'm just giving you maybe 1 minute because I know sometimes it can take time to connect. So to be sure we are all on the same page. So you will see once you connect, you should arrive in this page that I'm gonna introduce in a bit. But basically this is a home page. And then if you click here, you will be able to access our BApp user manual. So this is actually all what I'm gonna explain today. But later on, if you want to have a look on it, you can have really the main step to follow to actually design a mission that we're gonna do today. So I was just clicking on this because you can also have the BKit user manual. And this is where we can find communication protocols supported by the BKit. So I just like to find them. Okay. Or URT. Okay, great. So this is actually the communication protocol supported by the BKit. So CAN, I2C, CPI, URT, and JPIO. So this is a list of the interfaces supported to communicate with the payload through the BKit. So well, anyway, going back on the app. So you should all arrive right now on this page, which is a home page. So here you can have a visibility of our available ground station based on our list of providers. So you can see like where they are located on the Earth. And later on, when we're going to build a simulation, we're going to be able to pick up among these ground stations to receive our data from the satellite. And on the other side, you can have a quick overview and list of our available launch slots. So where we're going to launch and also the detail in terms of orbit and location. So to be able to enter the development page, you need to define a program name and a mission name. So for example, a program name could be Copernicus. And within this program name, we could have different mission names. For example, Sentinel-A, Sentinel-1A, Sentinel-1B. But here it really doesn't matter at this stage. So for example, for the program name, we can put SGSC. And mission name, so I don't know, let's say we want to build an Earth observation mission. We can just put EO here. Or you can put test, or really you can put whatever you want here. It really has no impact at this stage. And then you can click on go. And then you should be arriving at this page. So this is really the development page where you can have visibility of our two main modules. So the first one is called Mission and System Design. And second one is called Hardware in the Loop. So you see here is really this module that you will use if you have a payload to connect to your BKit. So you see right now I don't have any BKit connected to my computer. So we cannot actually use this module. But in case you have your payload integrated in your BKit, you have to connect your BKit, and then this module will start to be accessible. And then you see you can start doing your hardware in the loop testing. But today we're going to focus on this first module and do some quick exercise with the mission and system design module. So basically, as a quick introduction, we have 4 steps to follow to actually build our mission and be able to launch a simulation. So the first is really about choosing a platform configuration. So you see we are actually supporting from 3U up to 12U satellite configuration. And here it looks very simple because we wanted the interface to be very user-friendly. But bear in mind that behind there are all our standard subsystems that are being taken into account. So when we will launch a simulation, all of this will be taken into account into the results. Then the second step will be defining our payload parameters. So our different payload modes, and then the different sensors that we have for our instruments. Then the third step is really toward defining the mission, especially like if we have any point of interest or region of interest, for example, if we want to target Panama or a different country. And then we'll be able to choose among the ground station, because if we launch our mission, we want to be able to download our data from our satellites, right? So we have to pick up some ground station to get the results. And then we'll be able to launch a simulation, then choosing before the orbits. So defining the different orbit configuration. So as the first exercise, because just as a quick introduction in the first activity, we're going to use an ISS exercise. So really simple. So I'm going to do it quickly with you, but basically we don't have to select any platform or any payload, but we just have to pick up different ground station. So we're going to go on BAP. So platform, payload, we don't have anything to do. But on the third tab, so in the mission section, we're just going to choose a different ground station. And just to highlight a concept on this specific exercise, I just like you to pick up ground station based in the North Pole. So we can choose maybe North Pole or Esrange. And then one located at 45-degree latitude, so Fucino. And then another one based in the equator. So let's choose Panama, because you're almost all based in Panama. So just pick up 3 or 4 ground stations, but I'd like you to choose one in the North Pole, one in the 45-degree location, and one in the equator, because I just like to highlight something here. Then you can go on the simulation section. So we're going to keep the ISS at the orbit, and then we're going to launch our simulation. So to be able to launch a simulation, we need to define a start time, which here basically we can put now. So you literally write now, and then it will take the time from the local time from your computer. And then as a simulation time, we can put maybe only one day. And then you can launch the simulation.
There's a question about ground stations.
Yeah.
Same as before.
Yes, that's a great question, because I think we got it every time. So right now it's a predefined ground station based on the partner and the list of providers that we have. But because we've been developing this for quite a while, and actually this was a question and a requirement like that was popping up every time. So we are moving to a new version soon. So right now there is a new BIA version that is available. It's still a beta version. And in this new version, you have the possibility to have your own ground station. This is gonna be possible. But yeah, right now on this version, you have to deal with the list of providers that we have already predefined. So basically, you should have all. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if there is another question.
Yeah, these ground stations that are predefined. So you mentioned that there are some providers that you have partnership with, and then you can put them in the list of ground stations.
Yeah.
How do you put those ground stations in the list of the software?
That's a great question. This is more for my technical software team, I would say, to answer. But basically, this is the mission operation team that are taking care of entering this ground station. then I don't really know how they are doing that, to be fair.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Great. So I hope you all have the result that I can have here on my screen. But basically, you see in a matter of few seconds, we can get the result of that day of simulation. So we've been doing a simulation that lasts for 1 day, and now we can have actually all the result of what happened. So for example, the number of passes over the ground station. So we can see that we had 11. And then later on, you will see when we're going to define some point of interest or region of interest, we will be able to see the number of passes over this specific area. But this was kind of an introduction and first simulation. But here we can highlight some specific concept about mission design, which is when you choose ISS orbits, you can see that you're going to have this specific coverage on Earth. You will only cover 45 minus 45 degrees on the map. So basically here I choose Esrange. So I choose a ground station over the North Pole. And what happened is like I get no passes over Esrange. So if you build your mission and if you only pick up ground station over the North Pole while you are choosing an ISS orbit, you will never be able to download your data from your satellite. And this is really important because this is what we call the concept of link budget. Well, I guess some of you are very familiar with this. But basically, in designing your mission, you always need to have your data downloaded higher than the data that you generate. Otherwise, you're going to kill the memory of, if you have a camera, you're going to kill the memory if you don't download the data properly. So for this, you need to pick up the right ground station. And here what we see is that we have 11 ground station passes. And if I want the detail, for example, in Panama, I got 4 passes. I can see here on the table, total number of passes over Panama, it's 4. And I can have also the average pass time over this specific ground station, which is around 5.6 minutes. And then I can compare with Fucino. So if I click here on Fucino, I can see actually that the number of passes over Fucino was 7. And that the average pass time over Fucino was 7.5 minutes. So what does that mean? It means that actually I get better visibility over a ground station based in this latitude when I'm choosing an ISS orbit. Because out of these 11 total ground station passes, most of them have been over Fucino. And this is an important information because this will impact the design of your payload. Because if you know how long you're going to pass over a ground station, this impacts how many data you will be able to download, and then impacting the design of your data storage on board. So this is very important information to get. This is what we call the downlink budget. And just playing around with the feature. So here is more like playing around a ground station. But if we choose a different orbit, so here I just invite you to go back on top of the screen, and we're gonna change the configuration of your orbit. So maybe here we're gonna choose an SSO orbit, which is actually a low Earth orbit, but with a high inclination. And with this specific orbit, you will benefit all the time for the same illumination. So for example, if we're flying over Panama with an SSO orbit, we're going to fly over it with always the same illumination, which is very convenient for Earth observation mission. So I just invite you to choose SSO here. And we're going to define the altitude. So please, below the orbit configuration, don't choose semi-major axis, but altitude. And we're going to put maybe 600 kilometers, just as an example. Then for all the other parameters, you can put 0. So all of these parameters, you might be familiar with it, but it's really what different parameters playing with the orbit. And then we have also the LTAN, that here you can put 10.5. Again, I don't want to go in deep detail. I just want to highlight in terms of coverage what is going to happen. So I just invite you to enter all these parameters and to launch again your simulation. So I'm just giving a few seconds. So SSO, 600 kilometers, then 0 almost everywhere except for the LTAN. Just choose 10.5. So for my part, I have already the results, and you can clearly see straight what is the difference. Choosing different orbits, you can see straightforward the difference in terms of coverage on the map. And now we can see that actually we get some passes over ground station in the North Pole. So we get more passes actually overall. So we have 17 passes. And now I think if I click on S-range, you can see that out of these 17 passes, I got 10 over S-range with a pass time on average about 9 minutes. And if I click on Panama, I have actually only 3 passes over Panama. And I guess Fucino is going to be the same, only 4 passes. So this means that you get really more passes, more visibility with a ground station in the North Pole. So in terms of sustainability for data downlink, this is very convenient to choose a ground station over the North Pole when you are choosing an SSO orbit. So yeah, this is really kind of the link budget is kind of a key concept in terms of mission design and analysis because it really gives you an important information in terms of downloading your data. So that was actually the purpose of this first exercise. And in this first exercise, we put a bonus question, which is, according to you, what is the best location to watch the ISS among different points of interest? So among equator, a mid-latitude, which is 45, and polar latitude. So we actually answered that in the first exercise that we did, meaning that we saw that with ISS orbit, we didn't get any passes over S-range. But we saw that most of the passes and the best visibility were over Fucino. So actually here, the answer to the question is actually mid-latitude 45 degrees, because this is where you get most of the passes and a better visibility. So that was kind of a bit introductory activity and exercise. So if you want now, we can do actually a full scenario. So I'm going to go step by step with you, and we're going to build a full scenario to have actually kind of a full mission and result at the end. So I just invite you all to go back on the platform section and to choose a configuration platform. So here you just pick up which platform you would like to choose. I'm going to choose this 3U with deployer solar panel. But again, here you can feel free to choose which configuration you want. And then we are ready to go on the second step, which is defining the payloads. So again, here we can say that we want to develop an Earth observation mission. So in this particular section, we're going to define the different parameters for our sensor for this particular instrument in terms of field of view and pointing accuracy. And we're going to define the different payload modes. So different payload mode means that, for example, if we are flying over Panama or over a specific country, we want our camera to be activated when we are flying over this country. But if the rest of the time we are not interested to do anything else, we can actually switch off our camera to actually save power consumption. And this, we define all of this in terms of modes. That's what we call payload mode. It's when we want to activate our instrument or not. So here in terms of field of view and pointing accuracy, I'm not going to change anything. If you want to change, just feel free to do so, but I'm just going to leave it this way. Knowing that the pointing accuracy, the more you go below 1, means that the more precise you want to be, the more impact you're going to have in terms of power for your power consumption from your platform. Because the more precise you want to be, the more effort is going to require from your subsystem. And maybe if you have time, I'm going to highlight this by a quick exercise. And then in the axis, we have to say that our instrument is on a specific side of our platform. So let's say our instrument is going to be on the x-axis of our platform. And then we can define the different payload modes. So if, for example, we want an active payload mode or operational payload mode, we can name it. Then we need to define the different technical requirements in terms of power consumption. So here you can put 10 or maybe 5 watt consumption. The data generation. So let's say here 1 megabit per second. And then we need to choose an attitude target among the lists. So knowing that later on I want to highlight a specific feature of the software, means that flying over a specific country. And if you have your camera and you want your camera to be activated when you are flying over a specific country, it makes more sense to be what we call nadir pointing, which is equivalent to, say, pointing at the Earth, because you want to point at this specific country that you target. So let's choose here nadir pointing. And here you see we can choose among a secondary altitude. Because if your satellite, your satellite has 3 axes. So if one is pointing nadir, you have a remaining degree of freedom to actually say to your satellite to rotate and actually face the sun, so that you can maximize the power of your platform. So you maximize the illumination, and then you maximize the energy generated by your solar panel. So here let's choose maximum illumination as a secondary altitude. And then before adding this payload mode, so we have to add it. But before doing so, we need to say that our camera is on this axis of our satellite, as we did here for the sensor. And then we have to say that our camera is going to be operational in daylight and in eclipse, and then add it. So we have here what we call a default payload mode. I'm not going to touch it for right now, but basically this default payload mode is a mode that is going to be always valid. So let's say that this one is not going to be activated 100% of the time. So then when this one is deactivated, this is a default mode that is going to be activated instead. So here it can be equivalent to standby mode, and then consuming really no consumption and no power, no data generated. And then we are ready to go to the mission section. So here is when you're going to choose, you can click on the map and define different points of interest, or choose among a country. So here you can choose Panama. I'm going to choose Nigeria, maybe because it's bigger. Maybe we're going to get more results over the country. But here, really, basically choose whichever country you want to choose. It's fine. But to be able to add this, region of interest, you need to associate it to the payload mode that we defined previously. So here you need to choose active for the payload mode, and then click on add. So you see the countries that you chose need to be colored in green on the map. So what does that mean? It means that when a satellite is going to fly over the country, our payload mode is going to be activated at this specific time. But again, here, feel free to define your own coverage and mission. So in terms of ground station, let's just keep the same ground station. So we can keep Panama and Fucino. Maybe we can remove Esrange because I'm just going to launch a quick simulation with ISS. So we can keep Panama and Fucino. And then on the mission simulation section, we can choose ISS. And maybe we can increase, for better result, we can increase the duration in 2 days. So here they just pick up 2 days. to be sure we get good results. So I already get the result, but you might have, some of you might take some time to get the simulation because we are 10 doing it at the same time. So sometimes it might take a few times. And if the simulation is not successful, you can just refresh your page. Just refresh your page, do the scenario again, and it should work at some point. But I've been lucky tonight. It's been quite very fast for my side. So here you can see we get the result actually of our simulation. So again, on the availability summary, we can see the number of passes over the ground station. So here we got 20, and again the detail for each ground station, and again the downlink budget associated to actually each pass. But what is interesting to see is on the region of interest tab. So here on the third tab, you can really see the number of passes that you get over the area of interest, the one that you chose. So for my side, I chose Nigeria. And if you click on Nigeria, you click on heat map on Panama if you choose Panama. And basically what you can see here, so here on the right, I just invite you to click on Wikimedia Maps. But here basically what you can see is really the coverage that you got through this simulation. So we can really see the passes that you get over the specific country. And here we see in yellow, we see the area that we've been covering twice during that same simulation. So bear in mind that here was a 2-day simulation, so a very short simulation, so we don't get a lot of passes. But on your own, I just invite you to do really a simulation with a longer duration. And you will see that your map is going to be very colored here. So you will really see which area you will cover the most during the 2 days of simulation. So it's kind of very useful for Earth observation because you really know which part of the country you're going to target the most. And also for communication, because let's say in Africa, some country you have really remote area. You want to know if this specific area are going to be target with this specific mission to provide communication services, for example. And then if you change the orbit, I really invite you on your own to change the orbit to see in terms of passes what will be the impact in terms of coverage. And now if you go back, you will see at the bottom part of the screen, you will really see how we've been doing in terms of performances from the satellites. So you can have the detail and graph on the battery energy level. So here we can see that we stayed rather constant. You can have the detail of the generated power from your satellite, from your platform. And we can see here that 0 is when we were actually in eclipses. So because we were in the shadow, our solar panel was not generated any power. So that's why here was in 0. Again, this is something that you have to take into account to design your space mission because you need to know at some point how many power you're going to be able to generate. And eclipses are important to be able to define this. And then you have the graph, one of the most important graph in terms of consumed power. So you can really see the consumed power of your payload in red, of the platform in, platform, it's in green, and the spacecraft in blue. So the platform plus the payload. And you can actually see here that each peak is actually associated to an event. So here the payload peak that you see here is when we were flying over Nigeria. I don't remember the number of passes, but I guess it was 4 because we get four peaks here. And all the peaks that you can see here is when we were passing over a ground station. So because we were passing over a ground station, we were downloading data, therefore we were consuming power that you can actually see here. And then you can see also in terms of memory status and data generation, how we've been doing. So I'd just like to highlight maybe 2 concepts just to show you. In terms of power budget, so if we go back on the first tab, here I've been choosing this platform configuration. But let's say, for example, if I choose this 3U, so this 3U has body mounting solar panel, which this one has deployable solar panel. Means that this one will be actually providing a bit more power to the platform because there is deployable solar panel and there is more solar panel than in this configuration. And then we can just launch a simulation again, just to see what's gonna happen while you change the configuration platform. So again, here you choose just a different platform configuration, the 3U, and then you can launch again your simulation. So I can actually see that now it's taking much more time than it's supposed to do. So I can actually try to refresh. So when if it's doing that, you need to refresh your page. So let's launch again the simulation. That's a good question on help. Then this is this graph actually that can help you to determine this. So I guess it's gonna be like trying to run different simulation based on the duration, and then you can see the battery in terms of battery, how long you're gonna last. So you see here's in terms of seconds. Maybe I should put, we did 2 days maybe. So I'm just gonna answer your question. But you see here, basically, we can see that our battery are not surviving the mission. So we can clearly see here it's in days. So you can see that around 1 day, our mission is actually not sustainable. So this means that choosing this platform configuration for this specific mission won't be sustainable, because in actually 1 day in terms of battery, you're just killing your battery consumption. So here it means that you need to choose a more powerful platform if you want to survive longer. And then it's really like running this. Yes, tell me.
Do you, in terms of mission duration, do you know how long are the missions nowadays lasting? Like 6 months, 1 year, 2 years?
Usually with I would say a generic mission and a standard CubeSat 3U mission, it would be three years, a standard duration. With a 3U configuration, I would say that you can go up, really increase this duration with a 12U platform.
And the simulation only lasts 1 day, right?
No. Here, actually, in the simulation, I'm doing a very quick simulation because otherwise it's going to take more time. But here you can run a simulation from 30 days or maybe more than that. Okay, but good. It's going to take more time to to simulate. That's why I'm not doing it right now. Yeah, that's it really. And in terms of memory status, so we can see that here we stay rather. So if you look at the red, so the payload, you can see the memory status of our payload. We stay quite constant. Yeah, I'm trying to highlight. So you see, it's staying rather constant. So this is a good sign because it means that when we are actually generated data, we were able to download them. So you see, like here we have a line. And if I go back, so I'm just using this platform configuration, but if I go back and here, I just erase the ground station that we've been choosing. And if I choose only a station over the ground station with the ISS, you're going to see that in terms of memory status, we're not going to be sustainable. So if we go scroll down, you will see like here, actually, yeah, no, you have. Interesting. Yeah, it's actually staying constant. So at some point, it's going to grow and grow. Here we can see that we actually never downloaded data. So it's going to increase. And at some point, your memory status is going to crash. So sorry, I did an exercise before. It was more obvious. Yeah, I guess we need to run a longer simulation. But basically, yeah, you can do it. You will see that at some point, the memory, if you never have passes over ground station, the memory is going to increase. And then at some point, it's not going to be sustainable.
Because you never download the data.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, I did an exercise just before. It was really obvious, but here, I don't know. It stays rather constant, so it's weird. But anyway, this is really to highlight the main concept. So really, this tool can really help you to get a first sense of your mission design and analysis. So in terms of link budget and power budget. So yeah, power budget means you always need to have a power generated that is higher than the power consumed. Because if you consume too much power but you're not generated enough, again, you're not going to be sustainable. So all of these results really help you to define all of this. So yeah.
Still, we have 2 more questions in the chat.
Oh, sorry. I'm like, can I say more than one CubeSat? So, okay. So can I select more than one Cube satellite and maybe simulate coverage for 3 constellation mission? I'm gonna reply to that question in a minute. After, so then what is the most common platform used for long mission in terms of battery consumption in cost? So again, this is really hard to answer because this really always depend on which kind of mission you want to do. Because you can see, for example, here, so I was not sustainable with a 3U. This 3U configuration, I was not sustainable, but I was sustainable with this particular 3U. And I'm going to be sustainable with the 6U as well. But because the 3U was enough, it makes more sense to use a 3U in terms of cost. Because the 3U is, is going to be smaller, so it's going to be cheaper to build. And why do you want to have a 6U mission while you can satisfy it with a smaller platform? But then all of this is being driven by your mission, what you want to achieve. So if you have an instrument that have a specific power consumption and that is actually sustainable for your mission with a 3U mission, then it's going to be a 3U mission. So it's really hard to say because it's going to depend so much about what the customer wants, what are the requirements. But I believe, yes, so far, the 3U mission are quite very common. I would say it's more like for in-orbit demonstration, it's quite very common to have this kind of configuration. But we are going more toward actually 12U mission as well, because it provides more power consumption. But it's very hard to answer because we have so many different customer needs and requirements that it's hard to say which one is most common. Because yeah, we are sending 2 3U mission in August. But then it's going to be a 6U the year after, and then a 12U as well. So we got a bit of everything.
Do you have any knowledge about cost per mission, like genetic cost per U? It's like $1 million, including the launch. I mean, $1 million, $500,000. How much in general?
Yeah, so to be fair, in dollars, I don't remember. I know in pounds, in my currency. So a 3U standard, I would say it's 500,000 pounds, including lunch. And I think it's around 1 million for a 12U mission. But again, like this depends so much about the type of payload that you're gonna take and the availability of the launch and so on. So, but I would say as a generic price, this is it. I would say £1 million for a 12U mission. Yeah, 500,000. So 500K.
Yes, not only
Yeah, it's
500,000.
for me.
Yeah.
I know sometimes I know that with English number I'm a bit. Yeah. So just to introduce and to be able to answer one question, I'd just like to introduce the new version of BIAB that we have. So that the team have been working on, which is quite a very new interface and a bit different. So yeah, first one is like you can really select your payload. So based on the simulation that you want to do and the type of mission, and then in the mission geometry, so you will see interface. Like we got the Google Map, which is a bit more nice, and then you will be able to do kind of the same features. So you can define your points, at the region. So I think you can draw a region. So to answer questions about the simulating a mission with 3 satellites. So with the old BIAB, you cannot do it, but with this specific version, you can actually choose a constellation, and then here you can choose the number of satellites that you want per plane, and then the number of plane, and then you can launch your simulation. So I don't know, maybe I can do one quick one. If I compute, do I get? Yeah, I forgot a specific. Well, so yeah, basically with this new version, you can get a constellation mission simulation. And here as well in this version, you can actually enter your own ground station and all the specific parameters. So yeah, here you got the result of your simulation based on the different satellites. So here I think I choose 3 satellites in 3 different planes. So here we got the result of the simulation. So yeah, that's it really for today as a first introduction to space mission design. So I can stay a bit online if you have any more questions. So basically, yeah, this is our version right now of the software, but we're gonna move soon to really to this new version, which is at the beta stage right now. But you can all request your access to this new version and to try it. And we're also very happy to receive your feedback and your comments on that. Because really this new version has been created towards the feedback that we received based on the previous one.
Thank you so much, Lucille. And if you have any more questions, please, you can do it now. But as you know, since this is part of the Introduction to Space Engineering course, so we will do some activities based on the presentation, and we will try to practice more. And I guess it will be very nice, even if in one university in Panama or in Costa Rica or in Nigeria, to have the BKit as well, even purchasing, I don't know. But yes, to simulate the payload, right? So I guess that would be very, very good.
Again, yeah, this is a project that you can also come up with, try to make the student or, I don't know, a small group of people over Panama, Nigeria, or Costa Rica to actually build a payload, a camera, which can be actually very simple and cheap, and then start connecting it to the BKit. So again, we really took into account the fact that it can be expensive. So that's why we have this light version, which is right now around 600, 700, but we try to be in touch with different suppliers to reduce that price as well.
How long do we have access to the application?
So BIAP is really free for education, so you have unlimited access. And the BKit, in case you're purchasing it, I would say even the light version, you will have kind of, I would say, a support for 6 months. But then after that, it might happen that the software might not be compatible with the platform with the BKit. But yeah, then it's after 6 months. So but maybe you can keep, because you will have unlimited access to BIAP, you will be still able to use it with the BKit.
And the question from Swansea is if the new version will be unlimited access as well for education.
I would say at the beginning, we will keep it for free. It might change maybe at the later stage, but right now the model is to have really people using it and being able to provide feedback. So yeah, cost will come at a later stage. But yeah, for education, I'm really keen on keeping it on a free basis.
All right, perfect. Is there any other comment or question from Costa Rica, Panama, Nigeria?
This was an international session.
Yes, yes. If not, I would like to thank Lucille for the opportunity and also for your time. Hope to see you soon in a second workshop.
Sure.
Something I would like to mention is that you have a program called Open Cosmos Ambassadors.
Yes.
That is maybe will be good for each university to have one student to become an ambassador, an expert in the Open Cosmos software. So
Sure.
Open Cosmos offers some training for this person who would like to be an ambassador in the university.
Exactly. So yeah, this is true. So we are actually looking for some people being able to give this training on our behalf. And the process is following a quick training of 1 hour, kind of more or less the same that we just did now. And then at the end, we have 3 exercises. So to be fair, we already done one. So I hope you remember the answer. But then we have 2 other exercises. And to actually qualify and pass the process of being an ambassador, you need to be able to find the answer to these exercises. So using BIAP, trying to follow the challenge, the requirements, and try to answer. There is few questions, but it's just to see if you understood the main concept behind. So yeah, it could be nice. We're really happy to have different ambassador based worldwide. So if it's something that can interest you, please let me know, and I'm happy to provide more information.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, I want to thank also the participants and see you soon for the students based in Panama and Costa Rica on Monday for the next class. And thank
Great.
you, Gustavo. And also, I want to mention that I had a company here based in Panama that is also interested in supporting some student projects. So it would be very nice for them to keep in touch with Open Cosmos as well.
Sure.
And thank you, Lucille, for your time. I know it's very late in UK right now.
It's okay. It's okay. I am on the weekend officially. But thank you really much, everyone, for your interest. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.